Lockheed Martin, the company that produces death. Some people think that Lockheed Martin is a company like Benz and Ford, but this is while the value of the entire Ford company is $45 billion. And Lockheed Martin company earns more than $45 billion annually from cooperation with its only customer, the US government. But Lockheed Martin has not always been like this, and this super company has many mysterious secrets in its history. For example, before the terrorist attack of September 11th, the value of each unit of Lockheed Martin shares was $19, but after this terrorist incident, the value of the shares of this company has grown and reached $415. Welcome to our channel where we talk about global geopolitics and explain the complexity of global affairs. In this video, we are going to examine the history and files related to Lockheed Martin. Initially, Lockheed was started by the Lockheed brothers as a startup in entertainment services. This company, which today produces F-22 and F-35 planes, was actually a service company that provided flight experience to its customers by receiving a small amount. When the news of the existence of such an entertainment company reached Henry Ford, the founder and owner of Ford Company, he humiliated them. At the same time, the Great Recession began and many of the world's aircraft manufacturers, many of which were newly established European companies, went bankrupt. This crisis and Henry Ford's disparaging comments created difficult conditions for Lockheed, but they were able to pass through this period. A few years later, one of the most bitter human events in the history of 1940 was started by Adolf Hitler. Now, all of Europe is looking to provide the equipment they need, but their own domestic industries are not able to produce the equipment they need for World War II. With the beginning of the World War, Lockheed and Martin companies did their best to persuade the American government to enter the war, and in contrast, the Ford Company did its best to prevent the United States from entering the war. Although Ford did this, for he did not do humanitarian work and did it only to make a profit from the production of equipment for the Nazis. Finally, America entered World War II in 1941, and Lockheed and Martin companies took over the supply of Allied aircraft by manufacturing P-38 and P-80 fighter planes and Martin B-26 bombers. When the war ended, Lockheed and Martin had completely become military equipment manufacturing companies. But the end of World War II was the beginning of a new war between America and the Soviet Union. For this reason, the American government provided a lot of financial support to these companies for a long time, which caused their unique growth during the Cold War. But suddenly the Soviet Union collapses. This had a great impact on these two companies because their product was the manufacture of missiles and lethal weapons, and with the destruction of the Soviet Union, the demand for their products was very low, and both companies were close to bankruptcy. And after 3 years of negotiations, in 1994, they finally agreed to merge. Lockheed Martin was born. The new Lockheed Martin company enters a new era of its activities after the Cold War and the end of strong demands in the military industry and steps into the space industry. But I have a question for you. Are there any success stories of companies that have changed their focus from producing harmful products to more ethical solutions? Lockheed Martin's disastrous failures begin with entering the space industry. 1999, Lockheed Martin collaborates with NASA for research projects and loses 2 Mars rover spacecraft. The main culprit of this disaster was wrong programming by Lockheed Martin engineers. This company was forced to pay $125 million in compensation to NASA. In the same year, he faced other legal problems. They planned to buy their fellow company, Northrop Grumman, for $8.3 billion, but due to the opposition of the US lawmakers to prevent the monopolization of the defense industry, this big deal will fail. In early 2001, Lockheed Martin was forced to pay $7.1 million in damages after a 9-year investigation by NASA and the US Army Audit Agency. Their crime was falsely claiming expenses. In simpler terms, Lockheed Martin creates unrealistic costs by falsifying documents to get more money from the US government. Lockheed Martin has been widely blamed for lack of management and corruption in the post-Cold War era. In April 2000, we saw Lockheed Martin's share price drop from $49 to $19, as well as a 66% drop in the company's annual profit. In 2001, Lockheed Martin was able to end all its problems and become profitable again. And the main reason for this success was the conclusion of a $200 billion contract with the U.S. Defense Organization, which was considered the largest defense contract in history until then. Training tens of thousands of security supervisors and human resources to deal with terrorist attacks was a new part of Lockheed Martin's activities that continues to this day. In July 2015, Lockheed Martin announced that it plans to acquire Sikorsky Aircraft Corporation. This company had a lot of experience in designing and manufacturing military and personal helicopters. Despite the objections of the American government lawmakers in order to prevent the monopolization of the defense industry, this contract was made with the amount of $89 billion. This increase in the power of Lockheed Martin from 1999 to 2015 showed that finally the power of the U.S. government no longer overcomes the power of Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, as the largest contractor of the U.S. government, has also been assigned the third rank of accidents. They also rank 21 in the number of contract disputes. Since 1995, the company has been forced to pay $606 million in damages in 59 different cases. But still, the first company that the U.S. government goes to for military services is Lockheed Martin. Like the Second World War, they tried many times to involve America in various wars. Lockheed Martin's political lobbying is one of the reasons for this company's success, which is the envy of its competitors. They have the support of a large number of representatives of the U.S. Senate and Congress, and they have obtained this support by paying huge advertising expenses. Most of their donations go to Republican Party politicians. The warlike tendencies of this party can be stated as the main reason for Lockheed Martin's support to them. Lockheed Martin found wealth not in space but in providing security and fighting terrorists. Just as Henry Ford saw wealth in cooperation with Nazi Germany during World War II and became the only American whose name was mentioned in the book, My War, written by Adolf Hitler. And in the end, I will repeat my question again. Are there any success stories of companies that have changed their focus from producing harmful products to more ethical solutions?